Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. If you have not yet had an opportunity to listen to or watch our prior content regarding the matter styled as Laramie versus City of Moscow, please do, because it will provide you with background, details, and facts regarding that case, which is directly related to Idaho versus Kohberger. Today is Saturday, the 13th of September, 2025. As of today, in looking at the docket in Laramie versus City of Moscow, there has not yet been a final decision on whether the temporary restraining order that was entered against the City of Moscow at the plaintiff's request on August 15th, 2025, and was amended twice thereafter, should be converted to a permanent restraining order, in part, in whole, or should be set aside in favor of public disclosure. Mainstream media did not enter the Laramie versus City of Moscow case, as they did in Idaho versus Kohberger several times, seeking to have the non-dissemination order that was first entered by Judge Marshall set aside, where they did not enter the City of Laramie case as interested parties discussing any possible impact on the First Amendment or the public's right to know and obtain information that cannot be obtained, in my opinion, anywhere else but from the Moscow Police Department's investigatory files. From what the public understands in this highly sealed case, it was the Moscow Police Department that first responded to a 911 call from 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022, at approximately noon, when Officer Mitch Nunez was first on scene, equipped with a body camera, and then joined by several other officers from the Moscow Police Department. In my opinion, there's no other comparable evidence of what was seen regarding that sheath upon Officer Nunez and every other officer who entered that property within the first few minutes of their arrival at 1122 King Road, what their body camera images showed of that sheath, or of the approximate 15 photographs that Officer Snyder took within Madison Mogan's room. None of the first responders' reports say word one about a sheath. However, Detective Brett Payne stated what he did on page 2 of the affidavit of probable cause about that sheath, and it was included in that 18-page document that asked for Mr. Kohberger's arrest, a warrant that was issued the very same day by Judge Marshall, who presided over the Idaho versus Kohberger case for the first several months that that case proceeded in Latah County. If you look at the docket, she signed many orders sealing evidence and other documents and things from the public, as did the subsequent two judicial officers on the case. First, Judge John Judge, to whom the case was transferred after the Latah County grand jury returned an indictment against Mr. Kohberger, and as did Judge Stephen J. Hippler, after the case was transferred from Latah to Ada County. Where is mainstream media in reporting on the fact that there's been a temporary restraining order that's been in place for a full month now, enjoining the city of Moscow from releasing proof of something the public has never seen in any form, which is an image of that sheath at the crime scene with the appropriate timestamps, or even an image of the sheath after it was taken in possession by the Moscow Police Department, as it was, and remained in the Moscow Police Department's possession until the 16th of November, when it was finally released to an Idaho State Police official, law enforcement agent, who went to the Moscow Police Department, took possession of that sheath, brought it to its ultimate destination of the Idaho State Police Forensics Lab. Given the distance between where that forensics lab is and the Moscow Police Department, it was likely not until sometime in the afternoon of November 16th, 2022, before the Idaho State Police Forensics Lab first obtained possession of that sheath to then conduct the forensic testing it did on that sheath. Again, central piece of evidence that has never been seen in this case. And so, as the public awaits a final ruling in the Laramie versus City of Moscow case, which has tremendous potential impacts on the public's right to know and ultimately on the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, whether the public will ever be able to see evidence of that sheath at the crime scene or not. And while all of this is going on, as Judge Hippler goes through the very slow process of deciding which of the must be thousands of pieces of paper and images and things that are under seal as of today to be released to the public or not in Idaho versus Kohberger. And with this case proceeding as it has been for over a month now in Latah County, mainstream media seems to have no interest at all in further continued reporting and what the consequences are to the public's right to know, the what appears to be delayed release of documents from a case that has been closed since July 23rd, 2025, as they instead seem to focus their attention of late in report after report after report on so-called selfies of Mr. Kohberger that were released several days ago without word one of the First Amendment. And in my opinion, the beating the First Amendment took in this case, which was prosecuted for over 2.5 years, largely under seal, setting a potential precedent that other cases can also proceed for over 2.5 years, where a defendant asserts that not only is he not guilty, but factually innocent, as the defense has done at times in this case. And then suddenly, out of apparently nowhere, there is a guilty plea, with the case still largely under seal and no reporting of the same by mainstream media. These are opinions that I provide pursuant to the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. If you have any comments, any thoughts, any ideas, any opinions that you would like to add, particularly as it relates to the First Amendment and the public's right to know, please leave them here. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you very much for joining us here today.